My journey to the priesthood started with an encounter with a pastor that I had at the time. And I remember as a young altar boy walking up to him one day after Mass and asking him, how much are you paid that you are always excited, doing this job? And he looked at me and he burst into laughter. And he called the deacon who was assisting him at the time to come and listen to the question of this young man. And after I repeated the question and they all laughed, he answered me with some level of seriousness. Says, Godfrey, I don't receive any salary, but the blessing I receive is more than any salary can afford. I didn't make much of it. But years later, this man comes to my house when I had finished my grade school final exam, waiting for the result. And he tells me, there is an entrance exam going on in the seminary, minor seminary. Why don't you go and while away the time with it? And I looked up to him and said, but Father, what is it about? And if it's a seminary, it presupposes somebody wanting to be a priest, but I have not told you I want to be a priest. He says, yes, since you are at home doing nothing, why don't you go and while away the time with it? So being there with his track, I jumped into it and we rode to the seminary. And there, as we were riding, and asked him, so how is it going to be like in terms of the questions and the interactions? And he mentioned that, it's a place of formation. So they just want to know how basic, groundedly you are in your faith. And that's what I started thinking about. And there they ask you, very simple questions about your faith. And being a Mass server, an altar boy, we were given some level of schooling and interaction that enabled me to answer the questions correctly. So I passed that exam, including my grade school exam, and then I was torn between going to a regular high school or going to the minor seminary. So my initial intent was take advantage of the Catholic education and environment and go study in the seminary. But as I made that decision and went there, little did I know that God was also waiting to take advantage of my presence there. So first year, second year, third year. And the difference between the regular high school and then the minor seminary was the presence of the priest who would help spiritual direction and then help guide the young people who are in the seminary. And so they had an impact by consistently answering questions and guiding you and leading you to prayer and helping you to discern. And it just so happened that every single moment when I had thought that I have had enough in the seminary and wanted to quit, I would go talk to this mentor of mine, the pastor that I had at the time who led me to this minor seminary. And he says, Godfrey, your reason for wanting to leave is legitimate. And I agree with you on that. It's our decision, that's fine. But let's take a moment and pray about it and ask what God thinks about it. And so he'll give me a week to go and pray, and then we will meet again. And then wherever I will be, he'll say, let's go with it. But it so happened that every major step that I wanted to quit, he will ask me to pray about it. And then after coming back 7 days later, every single turn, I was more resolved to continue with the formation. And this is what happened through the minor seminary of 7 years, the philosophy year, and then the 4 years of theology. And after my whole journey, he was the one that I asked to come and preach in my first Thanksgiving Mass. But whilst in the seminary, there was a presence of the renewal ministries, the charismatic renewal, which had also been embraced in Ghana at the time. So in the minor seminary, we were prepared through what they call Life in the Spirit Seminary. And we were prayed over. And it was one of those sessions that there was a deep sense of encounter and connection with Christ. And that made a whole difference in my journey, because I realized he was there with me. And with him, I was able to make the discernment and the clarity that I needed to respond to his call. So this has been the journey, and he's never been, he's never disappointed, and so he's always been faithful, and I thank him for his faithfulness.